Hello there, this is Nicholas Pierce, and I will be going over inclusion in the classroom. This is a term that gets thrown out around quite often in education. However, there's a lot of different ways that inclusion can be brought into the classroom. So let's continue. So, what is inclusion? So, the University of Arizona states that inclusion means making space for all types of students to learn side by side in school programs from academic to extracurriculars. By valuing and embracing diversity, inclusive education welcomes the contributions of all students in the classroom through a sense of belonging and shared goals. Now, in other words, inclusion refers to creating an environment where all students can learn together in academic settings. This extends to extracurricular activities, things like sports, theater, student council, and this is just to name a few. By fostering an open environment, you provide opportunities for students to broaden their horizons and expand their knowledge. So, who benefits from inclusion? Students benefit from inclusion, yes, but so do you as the educator. Within inclusive school cultures, teachers and administrators deal with fewer absences and disciplinary issues because students who feel valued and included tend to be more invested in their own positive participation in the learning community. So, student benefits. So, understood.org outlines 4 benefits of inclusive classrooms. It tailors teaching for all learners, reduces the perception of differences, provides support to every student, and establishes high expectations for all. Studies show that inclusion is beneficial for all students, not just for those who get special education services. In fact, research shows that inclusive education has positive short-term and long-term effects for all students. So, what is needed for an inclusive setting? An environment where all students, regardless of their social identities, backgrounds, or benefits, feel respected and valued forms a strong foundation for learning. So, this comes for the Center for Teaching Innovations from Cornell. Respect is a universal value that transcends culture, race, religion, and academic ability. Both students and teachers want respect, and nurturing a respectful environment opens the classroom to a lot of different possibilities. Assessment. Assessing students provides valuable data needed to understand their academic requirements for success in the classroom. This assessment can identify special education needs and necessary accommodations or evaluate language usage to determine a student's linguistic proficiency. Assessments offer a baseline and foundation that we as teachers can use to build upon. Okay, so during an IEP meeting, you as an educator are going to come into contact with the term least restrictive environment. Least restrictive environment um, takes the denial of separate but equal in education and emphasizes it. Uh, Based on the principle that separate does not mean equal, the LRE ensures that students with special needs are educated as much as possible in general education classrooms alongside their non-disabled peers. Communication and teamwork are 2 of the most important aspects of education. For example, going back to the IEP, it's essential to get present levels from every teacher, right? Uh, but it's also essential to maintain open lines of communication among everybody that's involved in that IEP team, parents, staff, administration, and this can make or break an education for a student. Another large part of inclusion is teacher belief. So first, it is necessary to believe that all students are capable, that they belong in the inclusive classroom, and that we can support them in their learning. So as teachers, this is our core belief that every student is capable. Their diversity, whether it is race, culture, language, or learning disability, it does not define their ability to set and achieve goals. Universal design for learning. Whether you realize it or not, you have in some way interacted with universal design throughout your day. Even if you're not familiar with the term universal design, you've likely encountered many examples of it in your everyday life. Closed captions, automatic doors, and accessible features on smartphones are all examples of universal design. Now, universal design fundamentally focuses on one key principle, accessibility. By providing a variety of resources in the classroom, you create more avenues for students to engage with the curriculum and acquire knowledge. Things like audiobooks, hands-on learning tools, instructions or expectations presented in multiple languages, things like that. It's essential to understand each student's current abilities when doing this. Being proactive is the best way to help yourself. If your curriculum isn't flexible, you're going to have to be reactive, and reactive approaches don't always work well. Introducing flexibility into both your classroom environment and your curriculum design can make things easier for both yourself and your students. You don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive. Professional development is often overlooked. No one professional development plan can meet all the varying needs of new special education teachers. For instance, a new special education teacher who attended a 4-year traditional preparation program is likely to have different needs than will a new special education teacher who attended an abbreviated alternate route program. So, continually developing your toolbox gives you more tools to use in the classroom. So, continuing your education is a valuable way to ensure that your students benefit from your growing knowledge and skills. The more you learn, the more of a resource you are to your students. Again, this goes back to the toolbox, right? You should always strive to provide differentiated instruction, and getting that differentiated instruction a lot of times comes from professional development. Differentiated instruction involves changing your instruction or your curriculum to meet the needs of your individual students. You have to meet them at the level they're at. Whenever a teacher reaches out to an individual or small group to vary his or her teaching in order to create the best learning experience possible, that teacher is differentiating instruction. You need to meet your students where they're at. The next thing is empathy, having empathy in the classroom. When teaching in the inclusion setting or any setting within education, it's important to understand the difference between empathy and sympathy. So, Grand Canyon University states that there are 3 types of empathy: effective, cognitive, and compassionate. Compassionate empathy is the ability to understand and share in someone else's emotions, but without taking them on as your own. It's important to remember that when dealing with our students, we approach them with empathy instead of sympathy. Again, sympathy means that we show concern or feel bad for someone based on their individual situation or circumstances. In education, we want to make sure that we approach our students with empathy, telling them that we understand them, not that we feel bad for them. Putting it all together. So, this list is very long and overwhelming. Building and nurturing an inclusive classroom involves a lot, right? Inclusion, like education itself, is ever evolving. You're always going to encounter new challenges and unforeseen circumstances, but great teachers know how to adapt. Embrace these changes. So be what your students need. Our students come from all walks of life, but a teacher can change all of that. Honesty, empathy, respect, open-mindedness, all of that can give you the tools you need to be what your students need. Be a hero in the classroom, because in my honest opinion, teachers are superheroes. Here are my references. You can find them all at the links provided in the references themselves. Here's some more references. In total, I think I have 10. These are great references. They come from universities, nonprofit organizations. Take a look at these references. They've got some great reading.